Hi, welcome to The Peaceful Home. I'm Teresa Elling. I'm a professional organizer, parenting coach, and homeschool mom of 6 graduated kids. Today is day 15 of Vlogtober, and while I haven't really been vlogging, I don't know that anyone would be interested in what I do throughout my day. I have been posting a video every single day for the month of October, and except for Sundays. And today I'm kind of checking in halfway through. I'm gonna let you into my morning at least. I'm gonna make some muffins, and I'm going to answer a couple of reader questions. And those are, why do my children regress after training? And another one is not so much of a question as a plea for help. I try to put systems in place and work on training my children. I pray, determined to have a good day, believing things will be better. By lunch, I am overwhelmed and in tears. So I am going to get to work on my pumpkin gingerbread muffins, and then I'm going to answer these questions. This is adapted from a recipe I found on Pinterest by, I think I have it, Making Time for Health. Making Time for Health, and time is spelt like the herb. And so I've tweaked it a little bit. I continue to play with it, as you'll see today, but I'm just gonna start loading stuff in my blender. I do have a Vitamix, which I highly recommend. It's amazing if you wanna do high-powered stuff like oatmeal, grains, and smoothies, and a million other things that it does. So half a cup of almond milk. Just putting my liquids in first. Now this recipe calls for almond butter, which I am out of. I have done it with peanut butter, but today I'm gonna try tahini. 4 tablespoons, and I'm just gonna estimate. 3/4 a cup of pumpkin. Calls for 2 eggs. I usually do 1. If you are plant-based or vegan, you can do flax eggs or chia eggs. I'm gonna do 1 regular egg and 1 flax egg. I have found with baked goods, using 1 egg really makes a difference in the texture, and it's not quite as gummy. Half a cup of maple syrup. I usually use 100% maple syrup. I'm out. But this is another one I use, Chalk Zero, which is made with monk fruit, and it has no calories, so that's another option. And again, I'm estimating about half a cup. And 1/4 cup of molasses. Molasses obviously gives it that gingerbread taste, and if that would be too strong for you, you can cut back on the molasses. 2½ cups of rolled oats, and that is basically what's going to make your flour. Teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda. This is some more flaxseed and chia seed that I just throw in along with the spices, and you can change those up. A teaspoon of cinnamon for sure, about half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of ginger, and some nutmeg. And I'll put the recipe at the very end of the video, just in case you want it. And it doesn't call for dates, but I am still adjusting my palate from pure sugar, so I'm making these a little bit sweeter with 3 chopped dates. And then this is going to go in the blender until it's smooth. I do like making these muffins as an alternative to oatmeal. If I'm getting bored with that, it's a great way to get in whole grains. Also, you can put in fruit, make a banana one with chopped apples. So there's just tons of options. And I'm going to fill the baking cups about 3/4 of the way full. Going to put these into a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes, and I'll check them at that point. They could take up to 5 minutes more to bake. And I'll set my timer, and then I'm going to run upstairs and work on the thumbnail for this video because that's the reality of what I'll be doing. I'll be right back. I just pulled these out, and when I touch, they are pretty springy. If you are in doubt, toothpick in. You can see the little crumbs on there. Not goopy at all, so they're perfect, and that was at 20 minutes exactly. I just looked out the window, and after all the fires in California in 2020, this is the closest to normal sunrise I've seen in a long time. I'm back after that quick trip outside to see the sunrise. And just a couple things I wanted to chat about for the remaining time of Vlogtober. I will still be answering some viewers' questions, and I'm also going to start doing a pre-holiday kind of checklist, things that you can start doing in October to prepare for the busy holiday season coming. So to get to the questions of today, why does my child regress after training? And then also just addressing this mom, and she is one of many that talk with me and just feel overwhelmed when they have especially several young children, and you, or even one or two strong-willed children. I don't like using that label, but it's helpful between us when we're chatting. I think that a lot of times this was my tendency anyway. I want to speak life over my children. I want to really bring out the best in them, find the gold in them, as some people say. And the title in my thumbnail is a bit misleading. Why do I believe the worst about my children? Why do I not believe the best about them? The thing is, of course, we're to believe the best about our children. But I mean this in a context of training and raising them up and day-to-day difficulties. So let me explain how this worked for me. Okay, today's gonna be a great day. It's gonna be awesome. I've really prayed over the kids. We've set some things up. It's gonna be amazing. And you're basically trying to convince yourself that it's gonna be a great day, you know? I bless my children with obedience. I bless myself with patience. And then, like this one reader said, by noon, in tears and totally overwhelmed. And okay, well, this day is shot. When I was raising my children and I was in the midst of some really difficult seasons, I remember one day the Lord speaking to me and saying, would you consider imagining the worst about tomorrow? Imagining the worst about your children. And I didn't really understand, but as I spent some time praying, I could see what he was trying to show me. And so this made a shift in my parenting. And so rather than being all geared up for a perfect day and primed for disappointment, I did the opposite. I thought, okay, I'm in the middle of training my kids. What could go wrong? There's all these things that could happen. And am I prepared? Am I ready? I remember this man that was talking about brave communication, and he said that he had studied communication and practiced it so well that he felt like a ninja, like prepared for anything, like bring on a difficult conversation. And that's kind of the place that I tried to get to with my kids. Like, okay, I'm prayed up. I'm expecting you all to misbehave, to argue, to be disrespectful to me, and I'm ready, ninja ready. Whatever you bring, I'm gonna be able to tackle it with the Lord's help. And the bottom line is, you're not really thinking the worst about your children, you're actually thinking realistically about your children, because regression in training is normal. It is part of the learning process. And if we don't understand that, then we set up ourselves for failure with false expectations, unrealistic expectations. Recently, my daughter and son-in-law, who have just had their second child in 15 months, my son-in-law mentioned that wherever they go, people will ask, oh, is she a good baby? Oh, does she sleep through the night? Is she a good baby? Is she easy? And he said, what I've come to realize is that when people ask that, what they're really saying is, does she give you as little trouble as possible? Is she an easy baby? Does she not inconvenience you? Is your life easy and smooth? And it's really sobering when you think of it that way, because that's really not normal. And if that's our expectation, that we should have a baby who is perfect, will never poop out the diaper, be up all night, be teething, be fussy for apparently no reason, we are going to be really shocked when those days come. Back to training. We have to realize that regression is part of learning. So what that means, when we learn, our brains actually learn during rest. So when there's a rest period, when there's downtime, or while you're sleeping, that is when your brain is able to make connections that move you forward in the learning process. So maybe you've trained your toddler to sit in their high chair, to be fairly patient, to slowly increase the time that they sit there, to ask for more, to say please and thank you, ask to be excused. And all of a sudden one day, they are back to 4 months ago, throwing food, whining tantrums. And the problem here, this is where parents often will say, you know what, training doesn't work, and they give up. Instead of realizing in the normal growth process, your child is naturally testing limits. It's what they do, it's part of learning. And they are checking to see, are you really going to enforce what you've trained me to do? Or are you going to let things go? And so when you step right back in with no fussing, or all done because you're throwing food or whatever it is, and you take them out of the high chair, you go right back to how you trained to get them to the place you wanted to be. I guarantee you, for one thing, it will take less time. So maybe it took a whole month to train something, it'll probably take a couple days, because all you're doing is reinforcing what you've already trained. And so it's easier the subsequent times. I think what I would want to encourage you the most in is that when your children have bad days, when they fall apart, when they seem to have completely forgotten everything you've taught them, do not give up on training and teaching, discipling, disciplining, being available for heart connections, giving consequences when necessary. Do not neglect those things. I promise you, if you are faithful in those things, not perfect, but faithfully moving forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's my motto. It worked fine for me because I certainly was not a perfect parent. I made so many mistakes. But if you're willing to be consistent and realize this doesn't mean you're doing a bad job, it actually means you're doing a good job. You have trained, and your children are at the next point of learning, which is, do I really need to do this? What happens if I don't? Oh, nope, that boundary is still there. Mom's being consistent. I need to continue to go to quiet time with a good attitude. I still need to come when I'm called. Do not give up your training. Be consistent. Hang on through those little developmental stages of the up and down of regression. You won't regret it if you just hang in there. Thank you so much for joining me today for muffins and tea, and I won't forget to leave the recipe in case you want it. And I appreciate you so much subscribing if you're interested in content, all things home and family. Thanks for joining me today on The Peaceful Home.